You're looking at a standard land dweller trying to handle water physics. It's a disaster. But millions of years ago, the Spinosaurus looked at the laws of fluid dynamics and simply said, "Watch this." Welcome to the Ledger. Today, we're dissecting the Spinosaurus, the dinosaur that effectively traded its dignity on land for a seat at the top of the aquatic food chain. While T-Rex was busy being a terrestrial bulldozer, Spinosaurus was busy crunching numbers on buoyancy, thrust, and center of mass. We're going to use our favorite crash test dummy, Stickman, to visualize why this creature was a clumsy, top-heavy dud on solid ground, but an absolute torpedo once it hit the riverbed. Grab your buoyancy vests. Imagine you're a paleontologist in 1915. You dig up a set of bones, see a giant sail, and think, yep, that's just a T-Rex with a bad sunburn. For a century, we treated Spinosaurus like a land dweller, but the 2020 discovery of a paddle-shaped tail flipped the script entirely. This wasn't a landlubber, it was a river ghost. Stickman, stop trying to stomp. You're built for the deep, not the sidewalk. That tail wasn't for show, it was a high-performance propeller designed to churn through water, not sand. Now, before we crunch the fluid dynamic that made this beast a terror in the rivers, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of our deep dive into the Spinosaurus's anatomy. But the Spinosaurus had a secret hidden in its marrow. While most dinosaurs rocked hollow, bird-like bones to stay light for sprinting, Spinosaurus went the opposite direction. It had osteosclerosis, basically ultra-dense, solid bones. Think of them as built-in scuba weights. To understand why, look at the physics of hydrostatic ballast. In the water, if you're too light, you bob around like a cork, unable to chase down fish. Spinosaurus needed that density to submerge and maneuver. By keeping its bones heavy, it essentially turned its entire skeleton into a ballast tank, allowing it to navigate river currents with the stability of a submarine, rather than a floaty toy. If you think the Spinosaurus was a freak of nature, wait until you see how its tail acted like a giant underwater paddle. Make sure you're subscribed, because we're about to break down the fluid dynamics of that tail movement in the next part. Now that our friend has essentially become a living anchor, how did he actually move? Forget the graceful swimming of a shark. The Spinosaurus was a physics-defying paddle engine. We're talking about a tail shaped like a massive, flexible oar. To calculate his movement, we look at the thrust formula. Force equals density of the water times the surface area of the tail times the square of the angular frequency and the distance from the pivot point. In theory, if you apply that much surface area with a high-frequency snap, you get explosive acceleration. Poor guy. The math says he should be a speed demon, but physics has a funny way of punishing those who ignore the laws of fluid drag. If you want to see exactly how much force that tail could generate compared to a modern crocodile, hit that subscribe button. We're crunching the full simulation numbers in our next breakdown. Now let's talk about that giant sail on its back. Is it a dorsal stabilizer or just a flashy neon sign for prey? See, the problem is drag. In water, surface area is everything. When the Spinosaurus turned, that massive sail acted like a rudder, but a tricky one. If we map the wake, we see the sail creates a swirling vortex. Using Stickman as our scale reference, we notice that without that sail, this predator would spin out of control like a loose fire hose. It wasn't just for show. It was a balancing act of fluid dynamics that allowed him to pivot instantly, right before grabbing a snack. If you want to see exactly how these physics calculations look when we simulate a real-life pursuit, make sure you're subscribed, because the next segment breaks down the bite force mechanics. Now, Let's talk about how this beast actually hunted in the gloom of a riverbed. You see, the Spinosaurus didn't need eyes to spot a snack. It had an entire sensory map of the water. Its snout was packed with integumentary sensory organs, essentially thousands of croc-like pores that acted as motion sensors. The Spinosaurus could detect the slightest ripple from a sawfish from meters away, even in mud-thick water. While our poor guy here is struggling to process the basic concept of movement, the Spinosaurus is living in high-definition sonar, locking onto its dinner with zero visibility. If you think those sensory pores are wild, wait until we break down the bite force. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss the next deep dive into the Spinosaurus's mechanics. Now that we know how it tracked prey, let's talk about the menu. The Spinosaurus was a specialized fish slayer, and its skull tells the whole story.
Wow,
If you look at the snout, it's long, narrow, and filled with conical, interlocking teeth, almost identical to a modern-day gharial. This geometry isn't for tearing through heavy hides. It's a high-speed precision instrument designed to slice through water and grip slippery, wiggling fish. It's basically a biological pair of long-nosed pliers. Its favorite snack? The Onchopristis. Imagine a sawfish the size of a school bus, armed with a rostrum lined with serrated spikes. Hey, careful with that. Talk about a rough dinner surface. If you think the Onchopristis had a nasty bite, wait until you see the math behind the Spinosaurus's tail thrust. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next deep dive into these river giants. Now, let's settle the ultimate playground debate. T-Rex versus Spinosaurus, but with a fluid dynamics twist. If you dropped both in a deep river, the T-Rex would be in trouble. See, T-Rex was built for land. His massive muscle density makes him float like an upright cork, but with zero maneuverability. He's essentially a giant, grumpy pool toy. Now, enter the Spinosaurus. In the water, he's not just a dinosaur, he's a torpedo. His dense bones and sail acted as a rudder, allowing him to cut through currents, while the T-Rex is just bobbing around helplessly. In this simulation, the Spinosaurus isn't just winning, he's playing tag in his own living room, while the T-Rex wonders where the ground went. If you want to see how we calculated the exact drag coefficient of that sail, make sure you're subscribed, because in the next part, we're putting these models through a complete structural stress test. So, what have we learned about our river-dwelling giant? The Spinosaurus wasn't just a big lizard, it was a high-performance aquatic machine. Its narrow, conical teeth were perfect for snagging slippery prey, while those paddle-like feet provided the thrust needed to navigate current-heavy channels. Think of it as nature's original speedboat, optimized for water density rather than dry land agility. By keeping its center of gravity low and its snout streamlined, the Spinosaurus dominated the river, while the T-Rex was still just trying to keep his head above water. If you enjoyed seeing the physics behind this prehistoric predator, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments, which dinosaur do you want to see put to the crash test next? So, whether it's specialized spinal nerves or a paddle-like tail, the Spinosaurus didn't just live in the water, it dominated it with the precision of a prehistoric submarine. Evolution is the ultimate engineer, turning a bipedal nightmare into a river-dwelling apex predator. As for our brave test subject, well, some experiments just don't have a happy ending. Thanks for diving into the deep end with us. See you next time.